So we're going to actually start, before we get on these mats, we're going to just start with a roll down so we can kind of stand nice and tall, like there's a string being pulled out of your head and up to the ceiling. And we just want to articulate each of the bones. We have 24 bones in our spine, so we have 7 in the cervical. We're going to nod that chin and round down through there. We have 12 in the thoracic, and then the 5 lumbar vertebra, and then of course that sacrum. We're just rolling down, and we're just trying to create that movement through these pieces of the spine. We have all of those bones because we need to be able to move through them. We all have different, slightly different variations in what the spaces that we have between them, but we just want to flow through this. It's as if each vertebra is cascading off of the one below it. We're getting a nice stretch. You'll find a little bit of a stretch there in the back of the legs. In the back, I want you to take a breath in. We take that breath in through the ribs, and then we go ahead and start to peel back up. And for some of us, we might feel, if there's any little bit of back pain or a little bit of fear in that roll up, just engage those abdominals a little bit, connecting to your spine. I'm going to do one more down. Think of going up and over, activating those abdominals, and then returning up. Good. So that's spinal articulation and a little bit about alignment. We're going to get more into the breathing and the breath focus. We're going to go ahead and hop on our mats. Going to be in this neutral position of the spine to begin with. And even in this neutral position, we want our rib cage to be just above the pelvis on that same plane there. Okay, so because if we're dipping it down too much, we're going to have some strain in our back. So just bringing that right up to neutral. And then we are going to actually extend the spine. Take the inhale, look up, get as much extension as you can. You'll see variations on a 57-year-old versus a 22-year-old. And then on exhale, we're going to go ahead and scoop the abs, tuck the tailbone, and round down through the spine. So one thing I want to say is that my arms and legs are not moving. I'm just lengthening through the spine, starting again at the tailbone, lengthen tailbone through the back, through the shoulders, through the neck and head. Go all the way through to that extension, because we do need extension, we do need flexion, we need all of those movements of the spine. Good, and
am I dropping the head before I start articulating at the pelvis, or do I just...
Honestly, it doesn't matter. I was cueing, or I thought I was cueing, that I wanted you to start with the tailbone and round through the low back, mid back, upper back, and hang the head. But I could have just as easily as said, lift the head. And this is actually challenging for me because I always do it in that way. So why not vary the movement? And then the neck, and then the shoulders, and then the mid back, and then the low back. Okay, and then let's get right back to neutral, because now we're going to do something called leg pull front prep. It's a mouthful, actually, for a very little exercise. Our toes are curled under. We're feeling that neutral position. We're feeling a little bit of bracing. That's not a lot of engagements, just enough. We're going to feel ourselves come into our lat muscles and keeping the shoulders down away from the ears. One of our fundamentals will go through that. And on exhale, we're going to lift those knees up. So nothing else is moving. This is actually a little more challenging than one would think. So take a breath in. And then on exhale, lower it back down. Hopefully you don't plop back down. Hopefully it's not too crazy. Inhale again. Feel that rib cage expand wide. Exhale. Then you're going to lift on the exhale. That's all right. You just have to stay up there a little longer, Gabe. Take an inhale. And then exhale, lower it down. So now we always have to, let's go ahead and shake out our wrist just in case that got a little bit crazy on the wrist. The way to make things not get too crazy on the wrists is to really participate with the hands and the shoulders and the fingers and make everything energized here, and then you won't feel so much pressure on the wrist. But what we're going to do this time is combine the two of those things. We're going to combine that stability of that leg pull front prep. Inhale, exhale, and lift those knees up. Then we're going to inhale, and we're going to go into that cat. So we're going to do that articulation up here in space. So we're going to tuck that tailbone round to the low back, mid back, upper back, hang the head. And this is where we can do any variation we want. Let's go ahead and lift the head, widen the collarbone, lengthen the mid back, lengthen the low back. Stay, inhale, and then exhale, lower it down. Let's do that a little more quickly. Inhale. Exhale, go ahead, lift those knees up 1 little inch. Take a breath in there. And then on exhale, round it up. I'm just doing that all in one fell swoop. Feeling those abdominals engaged. Feel the shoulders stay away from the ears. inhale back to neutral, and exhale, lower it down. Okay, good. Let's go ahead, guys. Go into a little bit of a child's pose. We do a child's pose. We can also do a shell stretch, the traditional shell stretch, which is going to stretch out the back. And this is a great position to take advantage of that back body expansion. We want, for breath, we want to have a 360 breath. So that means we want the breath going into the belly, the back, the sides of the ribs. Good. All right, good. So now I'm going to have you guys go into just a little mini plank, just in case, that kind of activity that we had on our all fours didn't quite do everything. But what I like to do with this is just to show the stability of this plank. You don't need cueing to do a plank. You just need that thought that what we don't want is we don't want to sag the hips. That's going to compress the low back. We don't want to shrug the shoulders up because that's going to sort of feel like we're elevating away from our core. We want to have our rib and hip connection still, and just breathe here. You don't need too long, a couple of breaths, 3 nice good breaths in and full breaths out. Now, if you get into a position you feel like you can't take that full breath, chances are this is too much for you. You might want to bring the knees down and then see if you can take a nice full breath in the rib cage, and if you can, this is a great position for you. Okay, and then you can bring those knees down. I'm actually going to have you lower down. We're going to bring our hands right underneath our forehead like a pillow. I'm going to have you laterally rotate your legs. Some of you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to click these heels together. This is some glute work, and it's annoying, but you don't need any equipment for any of this stuff. You could be stranded, lost, and you just throw out this heel squeeze prone. All right, so make sure
I'll only do this if I'm stranded and lost.
You wouldn't do that if you're stranded and lost?
No, I would.
It's not your first go-to?
No, I would, because I don't want people to see me doing this.
Well, plus, all right, that's the time to do this, because this is a little funny exercise. But the great thing about this is if you're stranded and lost, you want to keep that butt strong. We got to keep that butt strong. So, that's, your first priority, besides the water and such. But you want to make sure that those flat feet are looking, like they're trying to get up to the ceiling. So all we're doing is squeezing those heels. So your knees may lift a little bit. I don't want them to lift if that means you're going to crank into your low back. All right, so we can do a little squeeze, 1 and 2 and 3, just little pulses, 4, and then squeeze and hold 1 and 2. Use that squeeze and hold time to evaluate what's going on. Your abs are engaged a little bit, enough to stabilize the spine. 4, squeeze and hold 1 and 2. Look, I don't have any pressure in my upper back and body, right? That's nice and easy. 1 and 2. Check out that I'm not extending in my back. Instead, I'm really using my glutes. What I don't want is people to be cranking in their back. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to just activate those abdominals enough to stabilize the pelvis and spine.
Is your head resting?
Enough of those. What's that, Gabe?
Is your head resting?
Your head is resting, and trying to keep things relaxed, because it's really hard. Sometimes people, this is another one of our fundamentals, that sometimes we'll kind of get up into these shoulders. We don't want to do that.
Got it.
I want to keep that nice and clean. Okay, we're going to turn over now and start talking about and doing some things on the, you're going to go that way? That's fine. That's all good. But yeah, feel free to bring your knees into the chest, do a little circles, and then go ahead and drop those feet down. So we're dropping the feet down, legs bent, feet planted. We're going to take a nice deep breath in. See how it feels in this position. We've already been through a couple of positions to get the breath into the body and moving around. See how the breath feels here. The trick here is to try to get more lower into these into this area. The diaphragm actually lowers into the abdominal area, so that should expand, and the rib cage should expand versus just a chest breath. We don't get a lot out of that, okay? So breathing there, take an inhale, and on exhale, blow the air out. We're gonna come into ab prep, and I'm gonna talk about that last fundamental, or the importance of picking the head up off the mat, okay? So we're gonna inhale, nod the chin. We do that just to feel that nice support of the neck muscles. And then exhale, we're gonna curve forward, head, neck, and shoulders. We're looking at these knees. We take a breath in, and then exhale, lower it down. Pilates is a precise movement. So when I came up, inhale, nod the chin first, then exhale, curve forward. When I came up, I noticed my knee was just like, flying out to the side. So I wanna keep that nice and aligned. How you doing there, Gabe? Good. Inhale, nice and neutral in the pelvis, and then exhale, lower it down. So now we're gonna nod the chin. We're gonna come up the same way. I'm gonna have you bring your hands around to the back of your head. I want you to relax in your neck. I don't want you to take pressure in your neck. And that sometimes happens when we come up. We don't notice that pressure that happens. But looking at your pelvis, this is a neutral position of the spine. We're just neutral, the feet are down, and we can pulse up here. Make sure you're not pulling on your neck. We never want to pull on the neck to try to get that chin down. We're just pulsing up for 3, pulsing up for 4.
Why does this kill
Stay
me?
with me, 5.
Like,
It
I'm shaking
hurts.
so- no, I'm
6.
just
You're shaking.
so
Oh,
much.
7. You must not be doing enough of these.
I guess.
And 8. Take an inhale. Reach the hands right back down by the hips, and exhale. Lower it down. Well, that brings me into something that people feel a lot. We sometimes feel some shaking in Pilates. It's like we're waking up muscles that we might not be using, or maybe you have done these things in a different way with a different focus. So sometimes that could happen too. It just really depends. Now, let's talk about the pelvis. We're going to do a little low abdominal work. That, by the way, was more upper abdominal work while stabilizing the low abs and maintaining that neutral position. We're going to do some low abdominal work by imprinting the spine. So this is the pelvic placement principle. We want to make sure that we can safely lift those legs up into that tabletop. So we're going to post tilt the pelvis to do that. We're going to inhale back to neutral. I'm just very lightly moving the pelvis. And when we teach this, we teach it more directly and like it's a bigger movement. But at the end of the day, we really want people to understand that really what this imprint is we're just incorporating more of those low abdominals, the obliques, transversus, and getting all those muscles to sort of stay together, okay? Now, once you're in that deep imprint, you're gonna lift your first leg up. Nothing should really move as you lift that second leg, although I won't say that that's easy. A lot of people, if they don't have that pelvic stability, they might lift that second leg up, but we're gonna lift it up. We've got that stability, and we're gonna just try to challenge this posterior tilt position. It's not easy because, the work is hard when you send that lever. So we inhale, bring it back up. Oh, sorry, Gabe, I missed that cue. Exhale, reach a leg away. So we're just kind of alternating legs. And we want to try to do this with one leg first just because, that's only one leg moving away away from the center of the core versus 2. We'll do 2 in a little bit. One more on each side. Again, evaluate the tension in your neck. Really try to make sure you're not feeling too forced.
You're doing toe drops, my bad.
Yeah, we're doing, well,
heel
you
drops.
can, either one. I mean, you were doing straight leg reaches. That's totally fine. I personally think that the bent leg is more challenging now that you did them both. What do you think?
I think the straight leg was harder, but I was keeping my heel kind of low towards the ground, so.
All right, yeah. So basically, all right, let's be done with those. Let's go ahead and drop one. I could go on all day if you got me talking. And then the other one. Then we're going to return back to neutral. So see, we used that imprint because we were lifted up into, with our legs. We were in what's called an open chain position. So we didn't have the support of the legs and we needed to incorporate more abdominal focus. Let's go ahead and wring that out by doing one of my favorite, which is a hip roll. The hip roll used to hurt me when I didn't really understand. I was just a student of Pilates. I didn't really understand what was happening. I used to get a little low back pain. I'll try to explain what is happening there. In the initiation of the hip roll, you want to actually go through the imprint, and in doing so, you're engaging those abdominal muscles. So we go into that post tilt, engaging, and then you want to have these glutes working to peel the lowest part of your spine up and all the way through. So now we're also coming into our core and making sure that core is staying active. It's not a lot of work, but it's the fact that we are lifting up, we are keeping the rib cage aligned that makes you feel that these hips are working. And a lot of people are tight in the hips. They might not be able to get up that high, and if they can't because they're tight here, then they're going to start using their back. And this is where the back is going to start doing too much and start aching. So what I really want to focus on is this deep, deep imprint, the pubic bone to breastbone. Then we're going to take the breath in, and on exhale, we're going to peel the spine down one bone at a time. Again, we're hitting in on the articulation, but that's not the biggest thing that I feel here. What I feel is that sort of sequence of the muscle is so important, the activity into the abdominals, to post tilt the pelvis, and then to peel up. And then once we're up here, we can feel those glutes working because the glutes are going to work in this hip extension. We also have this rib cage to tend with, because a lot of times we might have the rib cage flaring up. We want to try to keep this rib cage down. You'll notice that once you bring that rib cage down, you're going to find that deeper connection in your abs. And then when you peel it back down, it's really nice. You can lengthen away each piece. It's kind of like a pearl necklace, dropping one pearl at a time. And as each piece drops, you don't just let go. You're basically just moving. We've got this nice dynamic stability happening. Now let's go ahead and do one more, and let's do some pulses. Scoop the abs, tuck the tailbone, peel that spine up. Nice. And then we're just gonna have a little crack at the hip, just like a ½ inch, and then exhale up. And inhale, little drop, exhale up. You can even, if you want to, feel more of those outside glute muscles, those glute medius muscles. You can do a little out with those kneecaps. Well, the whole thigh, you're just pressing away. However, there's a little catch to that. What you don't want to do is you don't want to open up so the arches come off. Just a little dip down, a little press up, and a little press out. You'll feel that. That butt is going to be screaming. Good, and one more like that. Up and press, out, inhale, and exhale. Peel it back down. We're going to land at the imprint because I want to go into those double leg reaches. Land at the imprint. You're safely at the imprint. You're going to lift one leg to tabletop. The other leg comes up, and we're going to bring these inner thighs together. So bring in those inner thighs together. Take an inhale. I want you to nod the chin here. Actually, we're going to curve forward, and we're going to do leg reaches. So we're going to reach those legs. So again, here, we're sending 2 legs out. So that's the thing. This is going to be heavier and more challenging. I want to show you just one little thing. If someone's not ready to be in this position, they're going to start to come out. It's going to be a lot of strain in their neck, in their low back. We don't want that. So you really have to do Pilates going to places where you can maintain. You don't go beyond that, because then you're never going to really reach it, okay? And not to be mean, Gabe, so sorry about this, but we're going to do the hundreds. So reach those legs. Here we go. Curve forward, and it's an inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, and in. 2, 3, 4, 5. We're moving at the shoulder joint. Everything else we're holding. 5, but also we are breathing. In. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Take care. Notice what's happening in your neck. Make sure you're not going crazy there. 5, in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, in. We have a little slight bend in our elbow. Make sure you're not walking things out and in. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. Now look, let's say last 20, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. I was getting really tired. I'm honoring my body. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 100. Now take an inhale, reach one more vertebra up. Exhale, lower it down. Bring those knees in. All right, so bring those knees in. You're gonna look to the right. You're gonna look to the left. My neck started getting a little crazy. The thing with the neck is that before you have the abdominal abilities to be as high up where we wanna be, if you're out here, if you start to kind of get like, a little bit sticky in your neck, if you're not lifted up enough. So that's kind of, you have to kind of play with that. So don't worry if you have to put something behind your head. Sometimes if clients aren't there yet, but they still want to do the 100, we want to put a ball under their neck and make it so that they're comfortable doing the work as well, okay? Once you start stabilizing the muscles around your spine, this can really help. This can really help low back pain, a generalized low back pain that maybe
and spinal twist definitely helps.
Yeah, so, and actually speaking of which, is that the only thing that we're missing that we haven't done yet? So the spinal twist, so there's so many variations of spinal twist. What I will say is that we want to be careful that when we twist, there's an exercise that's a spinal twist. We're twisting like this. Well, we want to be careful. I'm going to show this seated up just so that we can, when we're down, they can see the concept. But we want to be careful we're not extending. So our body doesn't really know that well how to move, and it wants to take the path of least resistance. So if you're in a Pilates class and they're like, all right, rotate, and they're like, I'm going to rotate, come hell or high water, and that means they're going to just extend their spine. That's not helping your spine. The whole value of the spinal twist is to be able to rotate and keep that rib in connection with the hip, because that's where you have that nice ability for the mobility of the twist that actually is really good for your abdominals and your core, okay? So when we get down on here, this is the thing. If we really have a little bit of stickiness in this upper back, and we go to do this this rotation, we're not going to stop here. We're going to be like, I want to get all the way there, but look what happens with the, with the ribs. So that's what we don't want. We want to stay where our rib cage can stay down. I'm going to use my hand underneath my head because I know that's a thing for me, and I want to make sure I'm protecting my neck. I'm going to take an inhale, reach this arm up. Exhale, we're going to open and rotate. I'm only going to go where I can according to how tight my spine is today, and every day is different. Okay, we're not in golf season, so I'm not rotating on a regular basis. I did a very brisk cold walk, a 4-mile walk in the 20 degrees without the appropriate gloves on, so that, all these little things, any little thing is going to affect. Inhale, arm goes up, exhale, open and rotate. So again, just try to resist the temptation. So you may have to put that pillow under your head to flare the rib cage out. You want to make sure. You can almost bring this hand here. This hand, it'll just kind of get out of whack anyway, but this is a really nice place to put it to make sure that rib cage is behaving. Let's do one more like that. The breath is the inhale, lift. By the way, knees are up at hip distance, up at hip level. Exhale and rotate. And you're going to feel so much better if you rotate like that versus if you're just expanding through that rib cage. And then, of course, we're going to do it on the other side. What I didn't say is we want to make sure we line ourselves up. We're in that neutral position of the spine, okay? Rib cage over pelvis.
Flip this way so I can see you.
Oh, sure.
I'm a pro.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. You guys can still see me? Take an inhale. I'm going to protect my head. Reach the arm up. Exhale. It's almost like I want you to steer your rib cage instead of using the arm. I'm protecting my head. I'm keeping the ribs down. I'm not flaring the rib cage out or getting any strain in my back. That's a really important thing. Here, I'm going to have you take that breath right into the ribs, and then exhale, bring it back over.
Right,
Inhale.
It's not like just a stretch where you're kind of letting go. I think that's what
Yeah,
people do.
what we see is we'll see a lot of sort of this because we're really very tight in our rib cage and our chest and our shoulders, so we might see someone doing something like this. We don't want that. We want, just think about, your arm, keep it in the socket. Think about steering that rib cage to open and rotate. And I feel like I'm getting a little bit further on this side. I can almost get closer to lying down my left shoulder blade. And then I'm taking that breath right into the rib cage. Remember, I want to take it laterally. And then exhale, close it up. Inhale, reach the arm up. Exhale, open. Good. Inhale and exhale, close it up. I think this was great. Thank you so much. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you feel really good. You should feel better after Pilates. You should feel, even if you're a little achy going in, as long as nothing's really wrong, as long as you've had your sleep, had your hydration, Pilates should always make you walk out of there being happy that you took that class and feel better.
Yeah.
Right, Gabe?
Yeah, that's it.
All right.